capital equipment anymore. It's DME, durable medical equipment. And it doesn't matter how good I was back then, nobody would ever look at me or ever find me if I put medical capital equipment. Now, DME, whole different story. All right, so we want to load, and this does work. She'd had cancer. She was 2 years out of a job, over 2 years out of a job. And going through this process tripled her views. The other rule of thumb is that we all need, especially those of us who have had a Clairol moment or two, we need to have 500 connections, a minimum 500. It says on LinkedIn 500 plus. After 500, they don't care, it all looks the same. But the reason is that they don't want to hire somebody, any of us that are old and rickety haven't kept up with the times. So we've got to do what they want to do. Now, my co-author, Jeff, he is a Twitaholic, self-described Twitaholic. When the first Christmas period that I knew him, he had 40,000, this is only 2.5 years ago, 40,000 people following him on Twitter. He has 275,000 people following him on Twitter. He has more followers than Diet Coke has. He has just a few less than the Weather Channel, yes?
Are you saying then it's important to add everything that you have in social media to your LinkedIn, like your Google Plus and your Twitter and everything, and just keep connecting?
Yes. Yeah, the more that you're out there, the better chance you have of getting found. And the more that you put out there, if you've done anything that you're not so happy about, it pushes those things down off of page 1 to page 2 to page 3. And they are like us. How many times have you done a search and gone past page 1? Not often, usually. So, yes?
How this seems to conflict with what they post on LinkedIn, which says don't connect with anybody you don't know really well.
That's what they say. They don't want you to try to connect with somebody that you don't know.
And most people will smack you down too, because they don't want to be connected to you.
Now, there are ways to get connected, easily connect with those people. You start getting active in groups. You're active in groups. You comment on other people's material. They comment on yours. You connect. Everybody in here, I would imagine, everybody in here would be willing to connect with you. I know I will. And I don't send out connection requests anymore. I let people ask me. I'm not in the business of gathering connections, but I'll connect with anybody, and I don't do I don't even take a log like everybody else in this place does, because I don't want you on a list. I don't want you to think that I'm going to be sending you some garbage, because I'm not going. I don't have time for that stuff. So connect with as many people as possible, but you really want them to be in a couple of different areas. One, you want to have recruiters because they have a gazillion connections. But two, you want people that are in your discipline. So you can show up, you can become, if you get active in these things, in the groups, you can become seen as an expert, even if you're not. And one of the first people on the list, on the first page, had never been in the aerospace business, and he was actually contacted by somebody in India that wanted him to speak at a conference because they saw him as an expert, because he posted so much information just on the aerospace industry. So, yeah, I understand what LinkedIn says, but I want to play by the rules, but I want to use them to my advantage, and I want you to do the same thing. And you want to get found, and you want to be able to find people that can help you. So do it strategically, but add as many connections as possible, as quickly as possible. But do it after you've upgraded, not upgraded to a pay account, but upgraded your profile so that it says what people want to see. When they find you, you want them to see what they're seeking. And that's part of the keyword discovery part. All right. So the question is, can you get found, or are you a needle in the haystack? So we talked earlier about all these alternative methods, or we talked about, or that I would tell you about them. Well, here are a couple. Positioning in social media marketing plans, LinkedIn, networking, a new network of executives, marketing brochures, Twitter. Anybody know what a QR code is? I'm ignorant about most social media. And for that reason, I would use a QR code. As a matter of fact, I would put a QR code on the back of my business card. And what that is, it's called a quick response. It's known as a quick response. It started in the automobile industry. And these QR codes are like barcodes at the grocery store. But they hold boatloads of information and all sorts of things. You can put a presentation on a QR code. You can put a marketing brochure on a QR code. You can put your resume, which I don't suggest, but it's one of the things that you can put on a QR code. And with a smartphone, click, they can see exactly what you've put onto that little tiny square goofy thing. So that's one that I would use because I'm not tech savvy, and it would give the appearance that I am, that I'm more than I actually am. You need to be on job boards. Anybody do a Skype interview yet? Everybody should sign up for Skype. It's free. It's not as good as it used to be, but Microsoft bought them, so what do you expect? Let's see, so handling red flags. Every single one of us has multiple red flags, so don't be afraid of them. As a matter of fact, you right now, before you really get involved in this job search, you need to think about your red flags and create star stories, situation, the tactics that should have been taken, the actions that were, and the results that came from the actions that were taken. You want to know so you can speak to them. When somebody asks you a question or you uncover a hidden objection, you want to be able to tell your version of the story without telling an untruth, but it's your story, and there's nothing short of being an axe murderer that you can't overcome, and maybe even axe murdering, who knows. Haven't had one of those yet, God forbid. Anyway, so you want to be able to uncover hidden objections. You want to make sure that you're asking questions in interviews. This is not just a one-way street coming at you. It's got to be both ways. As a matter of fact, my favorite, and I'm going to apologize to the ladies beforehand, but my best interview, I was in New Orleans at the Windsor Court Hotel when it was brand new. Call the guy's room. He tells me what room he's in. I go up there, knock on the door. Mike opens the door. He says, "You see this brass thing in the middle of the door? If you knew that it was a doorbell, I would have hired you without interviewing." So I slammed the door in his face and beat on the doorbell like crazy, and I can hear him laughing on the other side. So he opens it up and says, no, you got to interview now. It's too late. So, obviously I'd broken the ice. And you have to be you, because you're going to be married to whoever it is for a long time. You're going to spend more time at work probably than you will at home. So you got to be comfortable. You don't want to be miserable in your next job. So it went further. We got along so well. He said, "Al, you got to see this." And he brought me into the other room, into the bathroom of the other room, and there was a bidet. He steps on the lever, water comes out, and me being me, I said, "Hot damn, got themselves a water fountain in the bathroom." So, I mean, I got the job. It was over. I mean, I had another interview to go through, but it was done. And again, you want to be comfortable because you don't want to make a different mistake that I've made. Yes?
This thing about hidden objections.
Yes.
I think that's the brick wall that has hit me for the last 4 months. I have no idea what they're doing to me, but it has kept me out of a clinical nursing position, which I should have had 4 months ago.
Okay. And we're going to get to that. Toot sweet.
Okay.
I promise. All right, so the company that I'd started, the pharmaceutical sales company that I'd started, we were so good we ran ourselves out of business. We ran out of clients in dermatology. So a VP of HR called, and they had a position as VP of sales and marketing. I went to New Jersey. I knew they had a terrible reputation, but the charm offensive was on, and when they offered me 40 grand more than my highest number, or the one that Goldilocks number, I took the job. 2.5 weeks. Well, the other thing was, they said, "Al, we know we need to change our management style, and you're the guy to do it." 2.5 weeks later, the VP of HR calls, "Al, your management style is different from ours. You're fired." You know, so it was like 1,000 tons of bricks taken off my shoulders to lose that job because it was wrong from the beginning. So let's get out of the black hole, because every time you put your resume in, it goes to a computer first and hopefully to a person eventually. And resumes, if you're using a chronological resume and you've been out of a job for a long time, the gap in your resume gets wider every single month. And that, folks, is a red flag. Here's some things, some ways that you can make changes. And I think Chris would back me up on a lot of this, which, by the way, I think it's very smart that you've hired a coach. Hiring a good coach can save you months and tens of thousands of dollars. And I'm not trying to sell you coaching. There are other people in here that are coaches. I've been a coach. I don't want to coach. But putting a graph, a bunch of columns with accomplishments, bullet-pointed accomplishments. If you take a sheet of paper, take one of your sheets of paper, fold it in half. There's a line in the middle of it. It's called the fold. Everything above the fold matters. Everything below the fold and on the second page doesn't matter unless you grab their attention first. You got to get their attention. And I had some clients earlier this year, last year, not believe that this would work. So I applied for jobs. I had got interviews with companies in the pharmaceutical business, and one of the two face-to-faces I went to, the guy said, you know, I've never seen a resume like this. I really like it. Because he doesn't have to read through all the garbage to get there. But unlike a functional resume, which you should never use, this one has all the companies that you work for, including the dates you were there. Functional resumes do not have this information, so you never want to use them because recruiters would think that you're trying to hide something, and you probably are. So here's some methods to find jobs, the companies that you want. Number one, and we will get to your questions there in a minute. You need to do a professional inventory. What do you do? What have you done at any point in your career that a company would want from you in the future? Now, the stuff that doesn't pertain, you don't need to talk about. Just the things that work for the job that you're looking for. So these accomplishments are anything quantifiable. Dollars, numbers, time saved, team accomplishments, before and after comparisons. A team accomplishment. I had a client early on who she'd worked for every news organization in town, including CNN. But she'd been out of a job for almost 2 years, and she was down in the dumps like you could imagine. I made her write a biography in the third person. And at the bottom, she just, I was in a group once that won a regional Emmy. I said, Frida, you buried the lead, honey. Because we rebranded her. Her personal brand became Frida, Emmy Award winner. And you want to know what kind of logo I borrowed? Nice, big, round globe being held up. Okay. So as soon as she sent it to her brochure to somebody, they knew exactly what she brought to the table. So they will know exactly what you bring to the table as a clinical nurse. All right, skills. Not everybody can come up with these numbers and so forth. If you're a secretary, how many words per minute do you type accurately? There's a big difference between typing and typing accurately. Trust me, I have a wife that types 95 words a minute accurately. So any of these things that can set you apart. This is what Abby was talking about and what I did live. Put those things down. You've earned them. You've done it. Those are the reasons why you got raises. Those are the reasons why you got more vacation. Those are the reasons why they're going to hire you. Can you come up with a logo? Here we are. This was one of them that a secretary used. I had another one. This, of course, it didn't go around in circles. But in the background of this guy's brochure, it had this piece of clip art, meaning, and he was was the supply chain guy, like you. The gears of business were always going around in the back of this executive's mind. It told a story, yes?
You mentioned the brochure several times.
Yes.
But I don't know what you're...
I'll show you. So here's another one, marketing plans and brochures. There are a whole bunch of different kinds. The guy down the hall, his thing is the trifold marketing brochure. They're fine, but there are other kinds. There's a bifold, there's a multifold, there's a portfolio. You can do these on videos. You can do them in PowerPoint. You can do them on a flip chart. There are all kinds of ways. None of them are better or worse. There's nothing in particular that you must have, except hopefully all the accomplishments and something that tells them about you. But there are all sorts of things that you can have in a marketing brochure. And it's not just for a company that is going to create a job for you, which would be great, but it ain't going to happen very often. But if you go and put this in front of somebody that can create a job for you, can see that you are better than somebody that they have, and you can replace them, that's an opportunity position. But the vast majority of the jobs that are out there are never posted, but they're looking. They're looking for you. And this is one other way for you to separate yourself from everybody else. And I say there are three different types of brochures that you want to use. One, when you're introducing yourself, which I call the backgrounder. The next one is the interview brochure, where you're talking about all the things you bring to the table, and that's where I think you can really come up with something that'll wow people. Speaking of which, this is very similar to Jay's wow interview. All right, but there are ways that, the final one is what you can do right after you're hired. Your first 90 days, your first 100 days, your first 6 months, however it is. And those things can actually earn you more money. They can earn you more money, because if they don't increase the pay that you're wanting, how about using this as a benchmark and give me a review early? Instead of after 12 months, negotiate it. Had two clients. One said was talking 3 weeks ago, who talked about getting a job. She negotiated $30,000 more than her offer, and then a client in New Orleans, young gal, she really wanted to work for this company, and they offered her less than her lowest number. So I said, well, let's negotiate. Oh, I don't want to negotiate. Can't negotiate. Sure you can. Take your pay stub or bank statement which has the best week or the best month or the best pay period that you've ever had. Mark everything else out. Ask if they can match it. It took 3 minutes for them to match it. And so now, every time she gets a pay raise, a merit increase, it's based on 15% more than what she'd been offered originally. All right, so what I want you to do is grab people by the throat and not let go. Because there are whole lots of things that we know how to do. We know about resumes, we know about job boards, we know about recruiters, we know about networking, we know about the posted jobs. But there are hidden jobs, career coaches, positioning, targeting, so on and so on and so forth. There's so many other things that you can do that are more productive than sitting on your keister in front of the computer screen. They're out there, and those are the ways that we get a job in this market. And a big part of it is going to executives. So let's talk about overcoming that ageism and those hidden objections. So you're in an interview. Everybody has red flags. Every single one of us has red flags, even internal candidates, which that is the most difficult person to get past. So that's one of the questions that you want to ask. In a final interview, you must ask, are you considering any internal candidates? Now, most companies would prefer to hire or promote from within. It makes perfect sense. I would do it. I've been on both sides of this thing, so I understand it. Why would I hire or promote from within? Well, if I don't, I'm going to get bad morale. If I don't, then other people who didn't apply say, we didn't have anybody in our whole group good enough for this. Besides, they know Joe Schmo. They know his quirks, and they know what they're getting. They don't know about you. So, a way to overcome this, yes?
If they weren't considering internal candidates, that question might suggest that they start looking for some.
You know, we can open cans of worms, but most, I want you to remember this, most hiring managers have never had any interview training other than what not to ask. And by being aggressive in an interview, you can turn this thing around, especially from being a confrontational type situation to being conversation. And questions that you ask will have a greater probability of being answered directly because they have never heard these questions before. You're taking them off base a little bit. They do that to you all the time. I mean, we had a client that went to a final interview out on the West Coast. He was doing great at the debriefing. He was doing great until the last question. They asked him, how many cocktail umbrellas are in use in the world, or whatever the heck it was, at any one day? And how do you answer that? Well, I'd never heard of it before, so I Googled cocktail umbrella questions. There are cocktail umbrella questions. They're looking to see how you think. Now, that's on the negative side. We had another client who, God bless, this was AT&T, which I didn't think they had a brain in their collective head. But they actually gave the interviewees a list of questions that they were going to ask. And they made, this is sensible. This is the way we do business. We don't just come up with nonsense. We think about it, we come up with a logical answer, and we present it. I thought it was brilliant. It's the only company that I'd seen do it, and it was one little division. So whoever was running it is really smart. I'd love to find out who it was. But we all have red flags. So let's try to uncover them and create star stories. And this is what I call the 800-pound gorilla questions. What would keep you from hiring me? What would keep you from hiring me? Here are things that they think about us. We don't want to work for younger managers. Well, folks, guess what? Gen X and millennials are coming up. And if we're going to keep working, and most of us have to, eventually we're going to work for people who are younger. But they think that we're not willing to work with somebody younger than them. We know that these are questions in their mind, so we need to uncover them. We're overqualified. That's one of my favorites, and I'll get to that one in a minute. We lack energy. Which is another reason why when you're doing a phone interview, stand up. Do it standing up, because you can't sound like Eeyore when you're standing up. You're going to be more full of energy. Put all your notes in front of you, and if there's a moment that you're quiet, tell them. I was writing that down. That was a great point you made. I wanted to write that point down. There are all sorts of neat ways that you can take advantage of everything that you bring to the table and minimize their problems. Okay, we have health problems. You know, I haven't had a cold in forever. And by the way, it is true, although I have bronchiectasis. I was in a car fire. I'm supposed to be dead 5 times over. So every so often I get a lung infection, which, man, if I don't get antibiotics quick, it's not good. Anyway, we have money, so we don't really need a job. Oh, I love that one. I don't really need a job. And we can't deal with change, which is one of the reasons why you want to have 500 plus connections on LinkedIn. All right, so here's some of the questions. You'll get bored. You'll get bored. How do we answer that? How do we get bored? You'll get bored. Yeah. Do I look like somebody that gets bored easily? I mean, just throw me at a problem and I'm going to solve it. I've done it all my professional career, and that's what I'm bringing to the table for you. What's another one? You'll move on. This is below your level, and you'll move on. You know, here's my resume. Not once have I taken a job and it been short term. I wouldn't waste your time or mine being here if I didn't think that this was what I wanted to do. Another way is you know, I've won all the medals that I need to win. But by gosh, I can help you and everybody else. I can help mentor you and let you win medals. Let's turn it around. You have created a star story. All right, you want to be a team player? Well, gee, I've worked with teams with female leads, male leads. I've been leads. I've been submit, whatever the correct term is, to others. I just want the team to win. When the team wins, I win too. When the team wins, I win. You'll take my job. That's one of my favorite ones. You know, if I'm anywhere near as good as I say I am, if I'm anywhere near as good as my resume says I am, that the people who recommend me say I am, then I'm going to make your team look better. And when your team looks better, you get the promotion. And when you get the promotion, you're going to want to bring the people with you who helped you get there. Let me help you get there. I don't want, yeah, sure, I want your job, but I want you to be promoted first. Wow! Will that get your attention? After I finish the veterans book, the book I'm going to work on, I've already got the title of it. It's going to be called Hire, Hire, Higher, Hire, because managers, middle managers, executives don't know how poorly middle managers hire. And we hire poorly because we think that hiring somebody who's lesser than us is going to make us look better. What a bunch of baloney. And then they ask this question. They'll take my job. Executives, good executives, have a really great risk-reward ratio. And they got to where they are, if it wasn't through a marriage or relations, they got there by being smart and surrounding themselves with people as good or better than them. That's a prescription for you being promoted. That's a prescription for you getting a pay increase. That's a prescription for you getting bonuses and awards. To surround yourself, and conversely, for them to surround themselves with somebody as good as you. All right, so here, you're overqualified. Of course, my favorite one is, would you hire, if you have a heart attack, do you want an underqualified cardiologist? You know, of course, you're probably not going to get the job that way, but who cares if you weren't going to get the job anyway? But, you know, here we go. I applied. See, these are actual ways that you can reword this. Anybody questions or questioning any of this? No? We're all here. Okay. This one's... You mind if I borrow my resume for just a minute? Sure, here it is. Well, I'll take some of my qualifications off. That's okay. You know, do I need to take more off? You probably didn't get that job, but you sure as hell had fun. What's that?
It's one of those things you want to do.
Well, yeah, well, I had somebody actually do that, and the person, after doing this, the person said, "That was a pretty dumb question. That was pretty dumb of me, wasn't it?" And boy, he really wanted to go with it. Yeah, it was dumb. But so, you know, do you want me to be less qualified? I mean, I'm glad. My favorite answer to that question is, I'm really glad that you recognized all the things that I bring to the table. That's what I bring to the table for you. I'm not going to waste your time. I'm not going to waste my own time being here. I wouldn't be here if I didn't want this job and want to do the job right. And I'm assuming that that's what you really want too. All right, so here are some ways to make your age an asset. According to AARP, we bring a lot to the table. Speaking of tables, how about these things? And some of these are really politically incorrect, but I don't give a damn because I want you to get a job. You bring experience. The little kid out of college doesn't bring experience. I know what's going on. You know what's going on. You can bring, you're not going to make the same mistakes that they will. We're more loyal than any of them. Use me as a mentor. Let me help the young people. You need a mix in your employment group. Let me help you. Let me take some of the burden off of your shoulders so that I can help get them up to speed, because I can be your cheerleader. I'm going to work with you because I've been in your shoes. I want this to succeed. How about our great work ethic? No group has a better work ethic than us baby boomers. We need less training. We bring a lot to the table without having to go through all the training. We've been there, we've done that. Less supervision. This is a good one. We understand corporate politics. We're not out to slay windmills. We're going to fight the battles that need to be fought for the reasons that they need to be fought, but let's not pick fights. All right. How about we have a track record, and I have a less chance of being the hire that will fail as opposed to somebody else. These are some things that you bring to the table. We have connections. We have established clients out there. One of my favorites, no babysitting required. I don't need to be babysat. I'm here to do the job. I'm here every day. I'm doing the job. All right, so I'm going to hit the ground running. You're going to hit the ground running. When I start, I'm going full throttle. Here are the politically incorrect ones. Chances are good we're not going to be on maternity leave. Okay? I don't have any kids at home. My kid is 36 rather. How can that be when I'm 29?
My grandkids are in college.
There you go. Yeah. We are more productive. We get more done. And why? Because we're not there to get an MRS degree. I get a lot of pushback on that one. So I'm not looking for a spouse. I have trouble enough with the one that I have had for 33 years. I used to think that my wife was smart until I realized how long she'd been married to me. She ain't smart worth a flip. Okay, so let's uncover some of these hidden objections. And at the end of every interview, they always ask, do you have any questions for me? And by God, you better have a question. Because if you don't have a question, you're not interested enough in the job. Right? So one of them is, you know, I can see myself in this position and thriving because I bring these things to the table. And by the way, those things that I'm mentioning were the ones that you said. That was a little aside. But, you know, you said that your needs, certainly in the next 30 days, the first 3 months after you hire me, are this, 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 and this. So those are the things that I know that I've been doing for years and will do with excellence for you right from the beginning. But can you see me? Can you envision me in this position? Now remember,